Hi guys, it is the AFL Yank back here again doing another AFL tipping video. This will be my tips for the second round of the 2022 AFL season. I completed the first round, as you can obviously tell. I ended up getting 7 out of 9 tips correct. The only two tips I got wrong were I tipped the Tigers to beat Carlton, which obviously didn't happen, as the Blues get their first season opener win in years. And then picked St. Kilda to beat Collingwood, and then they ended up losing to the Pies. Pies actually surprised me pretty well. Both the Blues and Pies were massive surprises for me, but yeah. All the other tips I got right. I tipped the D's to win. I tipped them to win by 28, but I think pretty sure they won by 16 or something like that, but I don't know. But yeah. Then I tipped the Cats to win. They absolutely destroyed Essendon. Tipped the Swans to beat the Giants at ANZ. It obviously happened. Tipped Brisbane to beat Port at home. Of course, that ended up paying off well for me. Tipped the Hawks to win. They got it done. Tipped Freo to beat the Crows. It was a really close game, but Freo hung on to win, and no one really saw the Eagles. No one saw the Suns beating the Eagles. Actually, I think I might have been the only person that actually might have tipped the Suns to win this game. But yeah, don't fool around with Gold Coast. They're really good in the early rounds. Anyways, let's get on to the second round after as we end the showcase of the review of round 1. So yeah, here we go for round 2. Western Bulldogs versus Carlton. The Doggies coming off a tough loss to the D's, as there's plenty of frustration within the club as a result of the loss. But yeah. And heading into this game, the Doggies are looking to be the heavy favorites against the Blues. The Blues, of course, are coming off the shocking win against Richmond. They had a really strong performance all around. Now, to be honest, do I believe in the Blues hype? Not exactly. I mean, they had a really good core, but the Tigers have become a very weakened team as a result. The Tigers are really in the best shape right now. Nonetheless, I'm gonna pick the Western Bulldogs to win this game. I feel like, despite all the drama, I think they're gonna be really, really, really hungered to win this game. I think the Blues might be in it, but I'm going to say the Dogs win by 17 points. I think they're the better side. Next, at the SCG, it is a massive, massive game on Friday night, as it is the Sydney Swans versus the Geelong Cats. The Cats coming off a massive win over Essendon, and the Swans coming off a big win over GWS in the Sydney Derby. There is an expectation of there's a possible return of Chad Warner as well as Jake Lloyd heading in the next week. Although Papley is still going to be out, but even with that, the Swans have just had an incredibly strong outing in the second half against the Giants. They had a bit of a slow start early on, but what a performance in the second half. Just a fantastic performance all across the second half of that game. Swannies continue to impress, and I think this will definitely be an absolute thriller of a game against Geelong. The Cats are a really strong team as of right now, but even with that, I think the Swans are going to once again beat them. I'm relatively confident in the Swans beating Geelong. They've handled them well for years at home, and they even dominate them at Like, the Swans always dominate Geelong, it seems. Like, when the Swans are dominant, they always dominate the Cats. And the next, we got Collingwood versus the Adelaide Crows at the MCG, beginning off the Saturday games. Two very young squads. The Pies impressed against... Shoot, I can't believe I forgot. But yeah, the Pies had a really good outing against St. Kilda. And overall, a lot of people are very much impressed by Collingwood. They looked really, really good in round one. And then for the Crows, they had a very, very respectable performance against Freo, but ultimately fell short. They came back from being down big, being down by 25, I think, at one time, and then it was a duel in the fourth quarter, but in the end, Freo ended up winning that game. Now the Crows, they didn't really dominate at the MCG last year. And with the Pies surprisingly being back on their legs, I'm actually going to go with Collingwood here. I think the Pies are definitely going to be a heck of an interesting... I think they're going to put up a very interesting performance. Yeah, I'm going to pick Collingwood to win this game. It should be a good one. But in the end, I think the Pies will be the stronger side. Next is Essendon versus the Brisbane Lions. The Bombers coming off a horrible performance against Geelong, and they're facing another strong side in Brisbane. And like the Cats, I expect the Lions to dominate this game as well. Unfortunately, I just think Essendon just hasn't had a good start. And I don't really trust them to get really back on their legs, but, I mean, it's still possible. But yeah, it's not looking good. The next, it is Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn. Port coming off the loss against the Lions on the road at the Gabba. But with how strong Port have been at home, I feel like they got the edge over Hawthorn. I mean, the Hawks had a really good performance against North Melbourne, but even with that, I think Port are going to be too strong for the Hawks. The next, it is the Gold Coast Suns versus Melbourne. The D's coming off a huge win over the Doggies, and the Suns also coming off a massive upset win over West Coast. This is definitely going to be a very interesting game. Personally, I think the D's will handle the job well. They handled the Suns last year. I expect the same to happen again. Next, Marvel Stadium, it's North Melbourne versus the West Coast Eagles. The Eagles being relatively favored to win this game. Of course, the Eagles are coming off a massively disappointing performance against the Gold Coast Suns. I am not really invested in the Eagles, unfortunately. I mean, they've had some strong outings, but I do not expect them to... I feel like the Roos might steal a win from them in this scenario. I just personally think the Roos are going to be too strong for the Eagles to handle. I mean, yes, the Roos are coming off an unfortunate loss against Hawthorn, but I feel like they might pick it up and get the win here. See, I'm going to go with the Roos to win this game. I think it's really possible that I trust them more to get back on their feet than the Eagles. Next is Richmond versus the GWS Giants. Tigers coming off the loss against Carlton, and the Giants coming off a loss against the Swans. I'm gonna pick another upset here. I'm gonna go with GWS to win this game. I know it's gonna be tough for the Tigers to go 0-2, but I feel like GWS might. GWS, they had some strengths against the Swans in round one, and I feel like they might rebound with their chances again. I think it's really possible. But yeah. And finally, Freo versus St. Kilda. The Saints coming off a disappointing loss against the Pies, and Freo coming off against a very close win. Coming off a very, very close win against the Adelaide Crows, and I feel like Freo, I think they got the stronger look here. I'm going to pick the Dockers to win this game. I feel like they have a really good shot at starting 2-0. But yeah, those are my tips for round 2. I might go to Squiggle quickly just to... I'm actually going to Squiggle very quickly right here just to so the average margin I expect every game to be. So yeah. Yeah, just give me a quick second. Shoot, I need the... There we go. Alright, so here's how I expect the margins to be. Tipping the Dogs, I believe, to win by like 17, I think. Swans, I pick them to win in a thriller against the Cats. I'll say they win by 10 points. Collingwood versus Adelaide, I'm going to pick the Pies to win this. I think this should be a very entertaining and interesting game. But I feel like the Pies will pull away. I see a 17-point win for the Pies. Essendon versus the Lions, I got the Lions dominating this game. Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn, I'm going to pick Port to win this game by 36 points. I expect a very strong outing from them. Gold Coast versus Melbourne, I'm going to pick the D's to win this game. I'll say it by 25 points. North Melbourne versus West Coast, I'm going to pick the Roos to win this game by 19 points. Richmond versus GWS, this should be a thriller of a game, but I'm going to pick GWS to win by 8 points. And finally, Freo versus St. Kilda, I'm going to pick the Dockers to win this by, say, 11 points. Well, 12 points, technically. So yeah, those are my tips for round 2 of the AFL season. I hope you all enjoyed this video and rate my tips. Anyways, guys, I'm the AFL Yank signing off. Carn the Swannies. And whose house? Rams' house. Have a good day, folks.